This lesson is called Graphing a Line Given Its Equation in Standard Form. And just real quick, standard form just means that you have the x and y on the left side. So you can have some number times x plus or minus some number times y equals another number. So this is actually called standard form. So there's a couple of ways to do this. The first way would be to solve for y and then graph a couple points. And then you're done. So I kind of like doing it this way, where you choose to graph the x and y intercepts. So the way you do that is you pick 0 for x, solve for y. So you have this point 0 and then whatever the y value is. And then you start over and you plug in 0 for y, solve for x, and then you would have a second point, which is now on the the x-axis. The 7/2, 0 would be on the x-axis. So you can plot those 2 points, which I don't understand why they're showing this point, but it should be right here. 7/2, 0, and then 0, -7. So let me show you with some examples here. So we have 4x plus y equals 8. We can do, what I like to do is have my x and y table, and I'll pick 0 for x, and then when I'm done with that, I'll pick 0 for y. So when I plug in 0 for x, I have 4 times 0 plus y equals 8. Since this is just 0, we just have y equals 8, so I'll put an 8 there. Then we start over and we plug in 0 for y. So I have 4x plus 0 equals 8. So this really isn't here, so it's 4x equals 8, and then I know x is going to be 2, because when I divide by 4, I get 2. So I'm going to graph these 2 points. My first one, 0, 8, and my second one is 2, 0. And I can do that by clicking on the line, going to 0 for x and up to 8 for y, and then I go to 2 on x, 0 for y. So this is considered the y-intercept. The 0, 8 goes on the y-axis, you go to 8. And the x-intercept is 2, 0, so you go to the x-axis and go to 2. And then that would be, the line is now graphed. So let's try another one, maybe 2. So x minus y equals -3. Again, I'm going to draw my table, so I believe that you want to do your XY table. So if you take notes, maybe put step 1, draw XY table, put 0 in for x on one point, 0 in for y on a second point to find the second point. So if I plug in 0 for x, I have 0 minus y equals -3. 0 is kind of like it's not there, so I have -y equals -3. So you can think of this either as -y equals -3, so what does y have to be? You can say, instead of saying negative, you could say the opposite. So the opposite of y is -3. So the opposite of what number is -3? And then that would be 3. So the opposite of 3 is -3. Or you can look at it this way. This is kind of how I like to look at it. This is -1 times y. But we don't want -1 times y. We want +1 times y. So we can divide by -1, which is how we solve for equations anyway. This becomes a positive y. This becomes a +3. So y would be 3 when x is 0. And then when we plug in 0 for y, we have x minus 0 equals -3, which means x is -3. So we grab our line here. We go to 0, 3. So we go up 3 on the y, and then we go to the left 3 on the x-axis, and we're done with that one. Now, sometimes we might have a fraction for part of our point. This isn't one of them. But if I wanted to plot the points, here, let me clear my drawing so I don't get confused. First of all, I can see that when x is 0, so I'm going to type in a 0 here, then I have y equals -4. So you can just type in your -4, and it plots the point right there. Boom. Then I can do another one. If y is 0, notice I'll just put that in here. Then my x is -4, and it'll plot that point. Now that they're plotted, I can just grab the line and make sure that's lined up. See how the point kind of turns yellow? Boom, boom. So the reason why I want to show you that is because this tool is really good to use, especially if one of those coordinates is a fraction. Then it will graph it right where it's supposed to be. And that's the end of the lesson.